Our relationship with our mother, right from our childhood, defines the template that we have for all our relationships. And I've seen that in so many different people. And I've especially seen that when that bonding with a mother is disturbed in a person's childhood, and when they don't feel safe and secure and held and connected to their own mothers, then their susceptibility to narcissistic abuse in the future, to toxic relationships in the future, to being tied up with toxic friends and people and partners, etc., that is super high. And I've seen that in at least five of my clients. And I'll just share briefly each of their stories so that you can see how, when the bonding with the mother is disturbed, how that increased their susceptibility to narcissistic abuse. Now, what happens when you're strongly bonded with your mother? Now, as a child, when you're born, the way you see yourself, you learn how to see yourself through the eyes of the mother. If you're in pain and your mother's like, "Oh, baby, that must be hurting you," you're like, "Oh, that's pain and that hurts me, and that means in this situation I'm supposed to take care of myself." Or if your mother, and the way your mother looks at you, welcomes you, loves you, it also affects your brain development as a baby, the way she plays with you, and gives you that sense of safety and security, and you feel like you're a superpower when you're strongly bonded with your mother. And when that doesn't happen, when that bond is broken, or when the mother is emotionally unavailable, or the mother is doesn't have those skills, doesn't have those relationship skills, doesn't have the empathy, doesn't have those things, then the child feels rejected, and the child feels that I'm unlovable. The child feels that I'm not worthy of anything, and the child becomes has a lot of unprocessed feelings, right? Usually, when there's a good mother-child bond, when the child has feelings, the mother helps the child process the feelings, calm their feelings, help them, take care of them, hold them when they're feeling disturbed. But when that bond is not there, the child is left alone with all their feelings. And what they learn is, my feelings don't matter. I don't matter. My existence doesn't matter. And that's how they start treating themselves. And when that happens, they are a great, great magnet for people who are narcissists. Narcissists are looking for those type of people who have a low sense of self-worth, self-value, who don't know how to appreciate themselves, who don't know how to love themselves, so that they can love bomb them, they can mistreat them, but at the same time, these people will never realize they were mistreated because they just don't know what it is to be treated well and with love. And usually, this mother wound, this disconnection with the mother, increases a person's susceptibility to narcissistic abuse because you become a great candidate for being love bombed. You become a great candidate because you're feeling uncomfortable, but you still continue going in that direction because you're just so used to shutting down those feelings, and you just end up in those relationships. So I had two clients, similar story, and that's why I put two of them together. Then the others I will talk about separately. They were both, when they were born, there were too many children in the house. The mother was tired. So then they were raised by their grandmom, mother's mother. And they stayed in that, with the grandmother in her house. And they felt very loved and nourished by the grandmother. But then a time came that they had to come back to the mother's house at a very young age, like 2 or 3 years old. And when they came back to the mother's home, they did not receive that welcome, that love, that nurturing, that protection that they needed to navigate as a 2 year old, as they were navigating that change from going from one home to another, 2 or 3 year old. And they have very strong, vivid memories of feeling scared, feeling vulnerable, feeling don't know what's going to happen, don't know if someone will take care of me in this new house or not. And then having so much, they're missing their grandma, they're back in their mother's home, and the mother does not know how to connect with them. And then um, and and what has happened is they've learned how to suppress their feelings over a period of time because the mother is emotionally unresponsive, emotionally unavailable. They've learned that they're not valuable. They've learned that they don't have feelings that matter, and they continued like that. And when it came to even getting married, And when they were about to decide who to get married from, they felt uncomfortable about to who they were getting married, but they were not able to name their feelings. They suppressed their feelings. They got married to those people, and then they struggled so much in those marriages. And these are stories of two different women from two different countries. One of them is from Bangladesh, and a client from Bangladesh but settled in the US in Seattle. And then another client from India, another client from Germany, Dusseldorf. Yeah. And this Bangladeshi, her mother was not just emotionally unavailable, her mother was a narcissistic person herself. And her mother was someone who was competing with her own daughter, who did not allow her daughter to shine, did not allow her daughter to be appreciated even by anybody else. And this girl grew up with such a low sense of self esteem that she was so uncomfortable. She could see through it that she was marrying another narc, but she just went with it because she felt she had no value. And she thought she'd get to anything better than being with her mother. And she got married, and then she suffered and she struggled and created did not want to shine because her whole thing was that if she allowed her own capabilities to come through, it would make her mother go off balance. So she had learned how to suppress herself so much that even in her marriage, she was the best candidate for that marriage because she had learned how to suppress herself so that her narcissistic husband doesn't feel terrorized by her. And um, and then she had suppressed herself so much that even when there were opportunities to shine, at a subconscious level, she wanted to be in the background, and therefore, certain accidents would happen, created subconsciously through her energy, that she would be rendered, invalid, like, her arms not functioning or legs not functioning because of the accident, so that she wouldn't have to show up to shine, and that wouldn't disturb the apple cart anywhere. The three people I'm talking about, another lady had to be her mother's support system. I had to support her mother, be her companion, help her regulate her emotions, help her balance her feelings. And she got married to, um, she just ended up being a balancer and just someone who was just, helping her mother be regulated. She had forgotten to consider her own needs and feelings. Um, and it's the mother who helps the child connect with their own needs and feelings. But here, she was so much supporting her own mother that she had just learned how to suppress herself completely, and it didn't make her very needy or vulnerable, but it made her very independent and very focused on herself. But still, because she had learned to not value herself, her needs and feelings, not listen to her inner voice, which is telling her when she's uncomfortable or comfortable, what's she liking something or not liking something. She just completely learned how to disregard herself because she was disregarded by the mother. And she got married to someone who was a narcissist. Again, the signs were there, but she had ignored those signs because because those did trigger some feelings inside of her, some caution inside of her. But she had learned how to be so disconnected from her that she didn't pay heed to that, and then she ended up in that situation. And another client I had who grew up with a very, very dominating mother, also a narcissist. And instead of being independent, this client of mine had become super needy and clingy and vulnerable. And when she was looking to get married and the partner she chose, she was completely love bombed. And when she was love bombed and she liked him, and she was like, wow, nobody's ever given me so much love and attention in my life. And wow, I really matter. And then she got sucked into that relationship, very beautifully love bombed. And then she struggled in that. And then finally, all these women had to learn how to reconnect with their own selves, value their own needs and feelings, heal the disturbed bond with their mother. And when that happened, they were able to reclaim their own femininity, and they were not vulnerable through any kind of further narcissistic abuse or toxic abuse. And it's not just that you marry the wrong person, but you also tend to attract such friends because you don't feel uncomfortable when you're being abused. You also attract such bosses, and you stay in those relationships because you don't feel uncomfortable. You don't feel uncomfortable because you've learned how to not value yourself, and the narcissist does a great job at devaluing you and you're okay with that. And therefore, you become more and more susceptible. So, for those of us who have been susceptible, or for those of us who want to reduce our susceptibility, overcome our susceptibility, or for those of us who recognize we have a mother wound, it's important that we heal that mother wound. We'll reconnect. We understand that just like I have these wounds, maybe my mother had those wounds too, that made it impossible, difficult for her to connect with me, to, give me that emotional shelter, that emotional home that I needed. And to learn how to first love yourself and partner with yourself, and to also learn how to reconnect with your mother, and to also uh, connect with her energy, connect with her love and affection in the way in which you wanted it, through visualization, through actually making connection with your mother and doing things. And all of these five clients of mine did that. And then, uh, not all five, we're still working on the fifth one, but all four of them were able to first solidly partner with themselves, take care of themselves. And when they were able to do that, they were able to reconnect, because once they had healed, they were able to reconnect with their mother in a whole new way. And that and all of this just reduce their susceptibility. So work on your mother wound if you have it. If you're a mother yourself, be very mindful about your interactions with your child, because that really shapes, I know it's a lot of pressure, but that really shapes all their future relationships. It really shapes how they see themselves, how they value themselves, and how they relate to other people in the world. So, yes, if you want to reduce your susceptibility to toxic abuse and narcissistic abuse, then heal your mother wound.